Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chris Spangle Show here on this Saturday. My name is Chris Spangle, and you may not actually ever hear this episode. I may just put it into the Patreon for people, but on Saturdays I'm going to start doing a call-in show, and so I'm just testing stuff right now. I'm trying to see if my laptop will stream to a group while taking phone calls. I'm running like 5 programs simultaneously, so hopefully it sounds good on your end. Let's take our first call. So this is going to just be kind of a test show, which is probably why I'll make it a Patreon episode. But Daniel Davis, my good Facebook buddy, Daniel from Pleasanton, California. How are you doing, Daniel?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Holy hell, it works. I hope you can hear it on the Spreaker audio stream and on the Facebook Live in the Facebook group. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I actually just moved over to your neck of the woods. I just moved to Columbus.
Columbus, Indiana, or Ohio?
Ohio.
Oh, that's unfortunate. So Ohio, I hear is lovely this time of year, but I'd never go because of all the crime. I have no idea if there's crime in Columbus.
It's really not that bad here. It's better than California. In Cali, it was damn near $1 million for a starter home. Here, I could buy a house for $250,000.
Dang,
that's the same size with more land.
Yeah, I had an aunt and uncle that moved to San Diego, or they lived in San Diego, built their dream home with like 1,300 square feet for $6 million, and it burned in a wildfire. They came here to Geist and moved to a $2 million home and had like 800,000 square feet. I mean, it was the biggest. They had more porch than I have apartment. It was wild. So what was your decision to move from California to Ohio? Was it work, ladies, what?
It was a mixture of work, and then there's a specialist here that my wife wanted to go see, so instead of paying for a bunch of plane tickets, we just decided just to move out here. So. Okay.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you calling in. I hope that I know that this may not necessarily, not you, but just generic version of the show may not be all that interesting, so I'm going to keep it quick. I don't want to keep Nick waiting too long. So thanks for calling in, Daniel.
All right, see you, man.
Thanks. All right, let's go to our... Ooh, I can ban a caller. That'll be fun the first time that happens. Let's talk to our good buddy Nick. Nick, how are you doing? Fellow podcaster from here in Indiana. Whoa, okay. Hello.
What? What's up, Chris?
Not much. How's the experience on your end?
It's good. There is a bit of a delay between the phone call and the Facebook Live, but other than that, it's good.
Well, that's okay. I'm just glad that it works. I can't believe I'm doing all this with one laptop. I'm sure this will blow up at any moment now. So, yeah, my on-hold music was the Alex Jones remixes from Stereo Deluxe.
It's great.
Yeah, like listen to this. Let's see if you can hear this.
Absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
So, Nick, these are actual Alex Jones. They take the video of him saying it, and they actually make it a folk song out of it, and I love it. It's fantastic.
It's great.
So I ended up pulling all kinds of drops, too.
I'm sick of being social engineered. It's not funny. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
He's such a cartoon character.
Oh, the gift that keeps on giving.
He is. So, all right, very good. So you have a podcast. Tell the people about your podcast. I have invited you on, but I have not invited you on yet. So I'm going to have you on soon. But in the meantime, tell people where they can hear your podcast and what it's about.
Yeah, so the name of the podcast is Cyber.Now. It is a cybersecurity, tech, politic, related show from the libertarian standpoint. weekly, or at least I try to do it weekly. Bring on guests from all over the place, and we talk about cybersecurity and put it through the lens of the libertarian and liberty perspective. So, now that I'm not traveling for work, have a lot more time now, and be happy to come on the show and talk some cybersecurity.
Cool. Very good. Well, there are probably 50% of our audience got hard nipples here. Oh, cybersecurity. Come on and talk about it, please. And the other half went, oh, boy.
Yeah. I don't know. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I will definitely have Harry in the studio for that one, and you two can talk about networking and packets and all kinds of stuff that I don't understand.
Yeah, we'll get a little excitement, geek speak going on, and put everybody else to sleep.
I'm barely functioning with Skype right now, so that if that tells you anything.
You and about everybody else except for us nerds.
Yeah. All right, my man. Thanks so much for calling in, and it's great to talk to you.
You too, Chris. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye. All right, well,
All right, see you, bye.
Unless we get anybody else calling in that wants to call in and say hi, we'll talk to them. A few notes for you patrons. As I ended the last show, I'm trying. Ow! I just bit my tongue. Holy shit, that hurt. Oh.
Holy Fook Sum Ting Wong.
That's how it feels in my mouth right now. So yes, I am August. Typically, I go through cycles. I'm a weird person, I think. I go through cycles where, and maybe I don't know if any of you are like this, but I find myself being interested or doing a certain thing at the same time every year. And for whatever reason, August seems to be improvement month here on We Are Libertarians. And we have been doing I'm doing a lot of spring cleaning. These other people aren't doing anything. Excuse me. So I've been going through the website and kind of cleaning up some of that stuff. And we have separated, as I mentioned, we were going to take the wall dailies and move them into their own feed. So that way we're not cluttering up the single show We Are Libertarians feed. And so there's a lot more RSS feeds for you folks. So that way if you just want to listen to Wall, you just listen on Wall. If you want to listen to the debates and just the debates, you listen there. We're going to add a couple in the coming weeks just to promote those feeds and everything. But we have Libertarian Debates, Libertarian Politics and Policy, which is the new version of Wall Daily. Perfectly noted for key terms, so when people are searching debates or politics and policy and libertarian, then they'll all pop up, all to help the network. Hody, Reinhold, Sarah Brady Wagner, everybody is already prepping new episodes for that feed, and including the Wall Reader folks. So go and grab those two feeds. That's where that stuff has moved to. As you heard at the beginning of this, the Chris Spangle Show, I'm going to... So here's what is happening with me and what I'm putting out. All right. So the Pat Down is becoming a very big podcast, and it is giving me a personal brand. And I've always, like, We're Libertarians and me have always been synonymous, as I've always joked. The audience is me, and I am the audience. And now that I'm on a show where I don't mention the name of my podcast, We Are Libertarians, but my name gets mentioned a lot, and I'm associated with it, a lot of people are searching for my name, and they find the Chris Spangle Show, a show that has not updated shit in about a year, because last August I tried to do a daily show, and I about killed myself. I was so exhausted by September, I got really sick. Because I was trying to do 20 minutes a day and, 4 to 6. I was doing like 10 hours of podcasting, which I think I still really kind of do across all the different things I do, but it's just less grueling because it's not me outputting a ton of information. And so as my name kind of grows, I am trying to grow Wall as well. I love doing the Pat Down, and it is a ton of fun, and it is very beneficial in a lot of ways. And so I as we get all those new people, because there's tens of thousands of people listening to that show, as we get new people coming over to We Are Libertarians, I don't want them to be scared off by the super long show times or the amount of content, and so I'm bifurcating some things a little bit, because I think that will kind of help people. It'll all snake together and network together like the octopus that is We Are Libertarians, and we're going to cross-promote the heck out of everything. But I don't want somebody to hit a single bucket like the We Are Libertarians feed and see an overwhelming amount of content or a long show. And so I'm going to take some of the material that gets prepped that we don't get to during the We Are Libertarians show, which is usually 2 to 3 hours. We're going to cut that down to 1 to 2 hours, and then I'll put that other material over in the Chris Spangle show. I'm going to do that live on Saturdays, take call-ins, talk to people. And really my goal, since I've been a child, is to have my own radio show. And I'm not good at sticking to a schedule, to a time clock, as it's known in the industry. And I want to practice that. And so that's what I'm going to do with the Chris Spangle show. It's going to be just me, and it's going to be formatted, and it's going to be me sticking to what I decide I'm going to do. I think if you've watched for a long time, you've noticed me, like every September we start doing all these new things, and then by January we're out of steam. And I want to be more consistent with that stuff. Like, we're putting out more material than ever before, but for some of you it may not feel that way, but we really are. I mean, I'm trying to grow We Are Libertarians into a platform, and out of my hard work over the last decade, it has grown the size of We Are Libertarians to tens of thousands of people a day, seeing what we do, interacting with it, looking at our memes, listening to our podcast, reading our quarterly journal, doing all these various things. And I'm really trying to bring in a lot of new people, and people like Ryan Lindsay, who say, hey, I want to do a magazine for We Are Libertarians. I have almost nothing to do with We Are Libertarians Reader, the magazine, and Ryan does all of it. He does a great job. The great writers in there. This new second edition is fantastic, and it's with Ryan Lindsay, Remzo Martinez, Hody Johns. So tons of great folks that have written for the magazine now. And that's something that I want to do with We Are Libertarians more. These folks who, like, if you just started your own libertarian journal, you probably wouldn't have a few hundred people reading it right out of the gate. We have a brand new show with Trisha Stewart called Gingerarchy. I looked at her numbers yesterday. She's got hundreds of downloads already, and we've not really even started promoting that show. So what I really try to do with We Are Libertarians is lend that clout and that expertise and kind of give people a quick startup to start making good libertarian content in the way that I didn't have 10 years ago. And what the Patreon does is it funds all of this stuff. So Spreaker, and you're listening to this maybe on Patreon. Well, that cost us maybe $100 a month. Spreaker costs dozens of dollars a month. Fireside, with all these new shows, over $100 a month. The radio channel, if you listen on the mobile app, or if you listen on our radio stream, that's $100 a month. And so, then there's the website, which is $100 a month. I mean, so all these $100 bills, or even the $40 we pay for distribution channels and Repurpose.io, and some of these other tools that we use. We just have so many different tentacles to all now, and it takes a lot of different software to make it happen, to make it grow, to add new features, to support the new host, to support the magazine. The email newsletter costs money. All of this costs money. And so what the Patreon does is, yes, I make a couple $100 to $300 a month off of it. I pay myself back for the tens of thousands of dollars that it costs to build. But the Patreon mostly goes to fund the new creators, not just my endeavor here at We Are Libertarians with my show, but also with these new creators coming on and sending microphones to them and paying for their hosting and giving them software like Zoom to get started, teaching them and training them how to do content. That's what that money goes towards, and it just is turning into a fantastic platform for a lot of different people. And we're hearing from a lot of new libertarians because the way that we do content is different than a lot of other libertarian shows. We are not preaching to the choir. We are preaching to people who want to know what's going on with Boris Johnson, which we'll talk about in a moment, or they want to know what's happening in Puerto Rico, or they want to know what's happening, why do wildfires happen, or what does Brexit mean? People who have a very rudimentary knowledge about politics and the news, and we explain it to them and then slip in libertarianism along the way to push them down the rabbit hole, as it were. Call it indoctrination if you like, but it's voluntary because they don't have to listen. So that's what we do. We are a network unlike anybody else. And so when you support our Patreon, as you all do, that is where the money goes. And it is vitally important that you continue to support. I probably took a look at it. I have all this side stuff that I've been doing has helped me financially. And so I've been able to kind of push up the amount I spend on We Are Libertarians to provide more services, to do more things. And it's only because you guys continue to support us on Patreon. So I really do appreciate it. If our Patreon kind of dropped a little bit this year, and I understand why. I mean, I have 3 podcast projects, including We Are Libertarians, which is a part-time job in and of itself. It's 20 hours a week at least. And then my full-time job and various personal activities of the non-sexual nature. And so it has led to a little bit of less content coming from me, and I fully understand that a lot of you probably may have dropped for that reason. And I understand that. I get that. I totally do. But I'm trying to get back to it and make sure that if you pay for content, you're getting content. But for the most of you, I think you donate your hard-earned subscription money to help us continue to spread the message of libertarianism to new people. I think we're one of the most effective tools in advancing libertarianism in the entire movement. And that is really where your Patreon dollars are going. You're going to help support the tech that makes this thing grow. And I am getting ready to roll out a set of volunteer opportunities. As my time becomes more precious, I need more help. And I do things, I would rather spend my time on the show and less time on a lot of other things. And so I'm going to be rolling out some opportunities, no more than 5 hours a week, and some of them are an hour a month. And it is just helping people book shows like Hody. Hody's getting busier, and so Hody needs some guest booking, or a producer for Trisha to help her with her tech, or a Patreon coordinator to make sure that we're communicating with the Patreons, or a Liberty and Chill coordinator, somebody to talk to the people who are interested in starting a local community group, a local social group around the podcast. Writers, researchers, bloggers, a website editor to help actually turn that into a daily destination for libertarian thought. So we're now in the process of really turning this into something that is very big and robust, and that takes a lot of money. And I'd love to have all of our graphics kind of redesigned and refreshed. I'd love to have new T-shirts. I'd love to have more, an alternative to Patreon as a backup, and all of that stuff costs software dollars. Just our emails. If you get our emails on a daily basis, that's $30 a month for us to send out. So if you are a patron, then you are help funding those bills. You are help spreading the message. And the reason we're on so much stuff is that when you're dealing with audiences, if I just had one RSS feed, and that's the only way you could get We Are Libertarians, our audience would be so much significantly smaller. And that's because you have to go out and talk to people where they're at. And so some people listen to podcasts on YouTube. Some people listen on iHeartRadio. Some people listen on Spotify. Some people listen on SoundCloud. Some people listen on Downcast. Some people listen on iTunes. Some people don't listen to podcasts at all. They just look at our memes on Instagram. They just see our emails. They just read the blog through an RSS reader like Feedly. So we have to be in all these different places to continue to reach people in the brand of libertarianism that We Are Libertarian spreads, which is pro-empathy, which is pro-free markets, which is unapologetically libertarian, and irreverent, mainly just being shit posters. And I think we're a unique brand that is worth your support, and I'd ask you to join our Patreon if you're watching in the Facebook group right now. But if you are a patron, thank you so much for doing that. And I just wanted to give an update as to kind of what's going on and what you're going to see and what's happening and why are these things different. And so you guys don't all get freaked out. And the amount of content that you're getting is not decreasing. It's just going in different buckets. So please hit wearelibertarians.com. That's where you can find out what's happening all the time. I keep that updated all the time, and you can grab RSS feeds and all that stuff. So let's go to the phones. Looks like we have Jay. Jay, you're on the air here on the We Are Libertarians Network. How are you doing?
Chris, what is going on, man?
Oh, not much. Just talking and thinking at the same time, and it proves difficult every once in a while. How are you?
Awesome. I just got back from the farmer's market. Sorry to around.
So, now, you are you the person who sent me the anarcho coffee?
That's me.
All right. I thought so. And Harry has not been here to the studio to enjoy it, but I gave one of the bags. What you sent me to the Rothbard blend. What's the description on that? Because it's hilarious.
The Rothbard roast after Murray Rothbard. I think Murray Rothbard once said, or it might have been Milton Friedman. I could be wrong, but government is not the answer. Individualism is the answer.
Individualism, right?
That's a medium blend. That's a medium/dark roast blend. And Nick from Sounds Like Liberty loves it. That's one of his favorites. We have Mises Mix. We've got Voluntary Valhalla. We've got lots of different roasts for people to try out. And
so
using the idea of coffee to spread the ideas of liberty.
I gave the other bag because I think the Rothbard blend, it said something about being bitter, and that made me laugh because he was a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
bittersweet, yeah.
And so I gave the other bag to a friend, and they said that it is blacker than it's so black that it swallowed the star next to it, which was a black hole joke, which was very funny, and they loved it. They thought it was absolutely fantastic. So where can you get anarcho coffee?
Awesome.
Where can you get anarcho coffee? And if you're a coffee drinker, support a We Are Libertarians listener and fellow libertarian. So tell people. Real quick, where they can get the coffee and what do you offer?
Yeah, you can get the coffee at anarchocoffee.com, and if you don't know how to spell, just go to libertariancoffee.com. That'll take you there. We are a fiercely independent startup company, 100% independent owned and operated. A portion of profits go to liberty-minded nonprofits like the Mises Institute and antiwar.com. And I'm just one guy who loves liberty and loves coffee, and this is my way of spreading the message, I guess.
Awesome. So make sure that you check it out, libertariancoffee.com.
Yep.
All right, man. Thanks so much for calling.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's jump into some topics here. I have little prep that we didn't get to on this past week's We Are Libertarians, and it is about Boris Johnson. And you've seen this straw-haired fellow that everybody's comparing to Trump, which is not a totally fair comparison, because Boris Johnson is one of the most articulate people in British politics and the world politics, really. Very funny, very intelligent man, great writer, has written many different books, formerly worked at newspapers. Really, what I'm trying to say, he's a very intelligent person, and Donald Trump is funny. So I don't think Donald Trump's dumb. I don't get the vibe that Donald Trump's an idiot. I think Donald Trump is a genius at getting attention for himself, but I don't think that Donald Trump reads very much. And so Boris Johnson is definitely not that guy. And he's not as much of a nationalist as Trump. But, so you may be hearing Boris Johnson's name a lot and not have any idea who that is, and you may be hearing the word Brexit. If you want to know all about Brexit and what it is and what that means, then go check out the episode that we did at We Are Libertarians on Brexit, and it gives you every piece of information you'll ever need to know about Brexit. and they're facing a big deadline on October 31st on leaving the EU. And so leaders in Britain for years at this point have been fighting over how they're going to exit. So after Brexit, the British people said, no, we don't want to be in the European Union anymore, which is a trade bloc, immigration bloc. It's like the various European nation states are the United States, like Indiana, Ohio, and then they formed loose Articles of Confederation, but not a constitution, totally. So they're partners, and it kind of helps smooth some of those. But the British people were fed up and said, we're not to be tied to this millstone anymore. Why should we continue to have our wealth seeped off to give it to Turkey, who wanted to join the EU, for instance? And so they have really been fighting against the European Union since the beginning. Margaret Thatcher. I just watched The Iron Lady, which was much better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be a hit piece on Margaret Thatcher, and it wasn't. It was actually very well done. And she was always skeptical of the European Union. So now the British people, they held this referendum called Brexit to leave the European Union, to secede from these trade agreements, migration agreements, all these different agreements that make up the European Union. And now they're trying to figure out, how do they actually leave the European Union? Do they leave with some entanglements, some strings attached between Britain to help make sure that trade goes smoothly, that when they're crossing the border? So Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Ireland are two separate countries, and Northern Ireland is part of Britain, and Ireland is an autonomous country. So what do you do about the border there? Because it's sort of like the Canadian-American border where, if you're in Montana, you can just kind of run across the border and head back over, and there's checkpoints and things, but it's a loose border. And so now if you're going to not have this agreement, how do people move between these two countries effectively? And that has been probably the most contentious part of Brexit. And now one of the biggest leaders in Brexit, in leaving Brexit, was Boris Johnson. And he is now Prime Minister of Britain. Now, essentially, the Parliament basically said, here, you caused this problem, you fix it. And we're looking at a hard Brexit, a no-deal Brexit on October 31st. Theresa May went back 3 times to try and get some soft Brexit where there were deals in place, and now it's just, nope, we're leaving. And it's threatening to hurt the British economy, and it's a very hard secession, essentially. And so the man that is now leading the Brexit conversation is Boris Johnson. And he was elected, he became Prime Minister on July 24th. So who is Boris Johnson? Thank you to Sam Schultz for these great show notes. He is our head researcher on our research team and always does a phenomenal job to help supplement my stupidity. He's a very smart fellow. So if you're not a very bright person, I think I'm smart, but I don't think I'm a genius or anything. And I'm pulled in a lot of different directions. So what you need to do is find smart people and say, what are you good at? And you do this thing, so then I don't look as stupid. And that is what Sam and the research team does for me. Instead of arguing with a bunch of nerds on Facebook that helps nobody, why don't you join our research team? Hit me up at editor@wearelibertarians.com, and you can join too. So who is Boris Johnson? So he's the son of a diplomat and an artist. Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson was born in New York and grew up in Brussels. So he's an international man. He went to Oxford, and he studied the classics, and he became the president of the Oxford Debate Society. And he first made his name as a newspaper reporter and editor. He was fired from the Times of London for making up a quote, but went on to work as the Brussels correspondent for The Telegraph and became Margaret Thatcher's favorite columnist. Now, Johnson became the editor of The Spectator magazine in 1999 and continued there even after entering politics, and he was elected a member of Parliament from Henley in 2001. Now, Johnson has had his ups and downs as a member of Parliament. He lost a leadership post after lying about an affair with a Spectator columnist, but was elevated again by Tory leader David Cameron. Now, London is traditionally a bastion of the left-leaning Labour Party, but Johnson, a conservative, managed to win 2 terms as London's mayor starting in 2008. You may remember the pictures of him riding around on a bicycle. He was big on bike lanes. Now, Johnson's victory was seen as a major breakthrough for the Conservative Party, which had been out of power in Parliament for more than a decade when Tony Blair was Prime Minister. And as mayor, Johnson wasted large sums of money on several failed projects, including a scheme to build a pedestrian garden bridge across the Thames and another to build an airport on, quote, Boris Island in the Thames estuary. And one of his early acts as mayor, Johnson banned alcohol in the London Underground, or as they call it, the Tube. Johnson is a strong advocate for Brexit, using the phrase "take back control" in his campaign. Johnson was appointed the foreign secretary by the newly elected Prime Minister Theresa May, who was essentially his political rival. And Johnson resigned as foreign secretary in July 2018, complaining that May's compromised Brexit plan would shackle Britain to Europe like a colony. And he promised that the UK will leave the EU by October 31st, no matter what. So he is somewhat of a populist, but he's an interesting populist in a way that not many other populists are. He has a reputation for brashness, and bending the truth has earned him several comparisons to Donald Trump. He's managed to generate a considerable amount of controversy for making comments that critics have dubbed racist, sexist, or Islamophobic. In 2002, while criticizing the UK's Africa policy, I wish Harry were here to read this, he referred to Africans as, quote, pickaninnies, which is a very derogatory term. In 2007, he likened Hillary Clinton to a sadistic nurse in a mental hospital, which I don't know why that's offensive. In 2016, he suggested that Barack Obama opposed Brexit because of, quote, ancestral dislike of Britain owing to his, quote, part Kenyan heritage. In a 2018 column, he described Muslim women who wear burqas as looking like letterboxes and bank robbers. Now, notably, Johnson presided over the Olympics where, as The Guardian put it, he demonstrated his greatest strength as mayor, an ability to generate laughter and a mood of upbeat bonhomie. Then British Prime Minister David Cameron aptly summed up Johnson's odd appeal. Quote, "If any other politician anywhere in the world was stuck on a zip wire, it would be a disaster. For Boris, it was an absolute triumph." Now, as a popular conservative politician, Johnson added legitimacy to the Leave campaign for Brexit. He also publicly broke with then Prime Minister David Cameron, who advocated for Remain. Now, quote, "Before Brexit, he never made his color clear," Simon Griffiths, a politics professor at Goldsmiths University of London, said. "It's widely thought," he said, "that he doesn't have a strong view on it, but saw Brexit as a chance to get his name known and a chance to lead a group of people." So the rap on Boris is that he never really had a lot of hard stances. He was kind of wishy-washy and trying to appease everyone, and never took a lot of controversial hard opinions, which is not Donald Trump, for instance. So he became the unofficial leader of the Vote Leave campaign. He also used immigration as a major talking point for Brexit, challenging the EU's freedom of movement rules and arguing the open immigration was making the UK less safe. Now, the UK is still divided over how or whether to break from the EU, and Theresa May's original unpopular deal is still the only one on offer from the EU. Johnson said he will renegotiate May's Brexit deal, however, and the EU has said it will not renegotiate, and Johnson's plan to break the impasse primarily relies on ideas that the EU has already rejected. Now, Johnson's going to live or die by Brexit, and so promising to that he's going to be the one that's going to fix it is kind of a leap, so it's going to be really tough. So in his... Now, because of his stewardship of Leave, he is basically, that's the reason why he's in charge of this. In his speech, he vowed to flood the streets with new police officers. So he's not just going to be a Brexit prime minister. He promised to spend more on education, to bolster railroad infrastructure, to promote animal welfare, to improve satellite systems, to increase salaries, to be the prime minister for all of Britain. He even promised to, quote, liberate the UK's extraordinary bioscience sector from anti-genetic modification rules. So, Boris, if you're new to politics, when you hear conservative in the British sense, it's not the same as in the American sense. They're more honest about how much they love to spend money. American conservatives love to pretend that they don't spend money, but they do. So Frank Luntz, a columnist for the Financial Times, has written, quote, "I have conducted focus groups in the U.S. and UK for 30 years. Mr. Johnson is singularly the most difficult politician to label or categorize because there really isn't anyone like him on either side of the Atlantic. Trump voters say the president speaks like them and for them. Nobody in the UK thinks Mr. Johnson speaks like they do, and that's his advantage. They think he's the better than them, and better than the career politicians. So they see him as not as one of them, but as a superior in some ways." Now, both men do appeal to populist-leaning voters, but that's a lot of where the similarity ends between the two. Trump is visceral and rooted in the here and now and petty, whereas Mr. Johnson is intellectual, effortlessly traversing through history to make his case. Now, while Mr. Johnson is not above the occasional attack or insult, which, as often as not, has backfired on him, his message has much more positive and hopeful, uplifting tone than Trump's, and he is one of the most effective speakers of our time. All of that was essentially what Frank Luntz said. Now, he also said, in Europe, Mr. Johnson has been an unpopular figure ever since his days as a young journalist writing inaccurate articles portraying Europe as a wasteful, bloated bureaucracy determining to do things like enforce one size. Excuse me. Basically, he said the European Union was like trying to force everyone to use one-size-fits-all condoms. So, very much a colorful character, a funny guy, and definitely someone to watch. He's somebody that I think is going to be unforgettable, and nobody knows if it's going to be unforgettably good or unforgettably bad. Everybody's rooting for bad, I think, and so it's interesting to see if he can pull it off, if he can end up being somebody that will pull it off. So we will watch that and let you know. And again, thank you for being a patron. Thank you for listening to We Are Libertarians and supporting us. And I will be back. Let's see. I'm doing an episode tomorrow with Frank Caliendo and Al Jackson again, so it's nice to be invited back there. And then on Tuesday, Harry and I will be talking about the Democratic field and kind of where that stands. Reinhold has just finished Libertarian Politics and Policy on AOC and the differences of where she splits with libertarianism. Let's see. Hody is going to be talking to Ryan Lindsay about the new wall reader. That is now available in Amazon and online at wallreader.com, so go check that out if you want to get it there. And Tricia Stewart continues to pump out brand new podcasts. She just talked to Carrie Wendler, and go check out her feed at wearelibertarians.com and grab the Ginger Archie podcast. So lots of stuff going on and lots of exciting things to watch. So we continue to grow, and we will continue to grow by hell or high water. So with that, I say thank you for listening, and we will talk to you on Tuesday.